Cold open hook, a single, echoing shot crackled through the dawn mist as the compound froze, guards collapsing, machinery stalling, and Sergeant Mara Price slipped silently into the shadows, rifle slung over her shoulder, heart pounding like. A war drummed out the first time anyone noticed Mara Price. She was dusting the rows of rifles in Equipment Bay 3, her slender silhouette bent with precise care. The men around her scoffed. "Quiet scrub," they muttered, passing her without a glance. Yet every movement she made was measured, almost reverent, wiping barrel to chamber, inspecting optics, recalibrating scopes with a craftsman's touch. She hummed softly under her breath, a lullaby her mother, Captain Eliza Price, might have sung when stitching wounded soldiers under fire. In those whispered melodies, Mara found calm. It kept her steady when the world bristled around her. "Droppa, if you've ever been underestimated," she murmured after a particularly meticulous adjustment, leaving a tiny mark of blue tape on a stock. No one replied. They were all ready. Walking away, backstory thread. From childhood, Mara's life had been a study in contrasts. Her father, Master Sniper David Price, taught her patience, how to breathe through a scope, wait for the slightest tremor in the wind. Her mother, Elite Field Medic Eliza Price, taught her compassion, how to staunch a wound with a torn uniform, how to calm a dying man's fears. Yet Mara's world grew quiet after their fatal convoy. Ambush 5 years ago, an ambush she swore to avenge silently. Now, at 28, her elegance of motion earned her the nickname Ghost, though most dismissed her as nothing more than a quiet armorer. In the mess hall, she ate last if at all and spoke less than her own shadow. Inciting incident. The sirens blared far across the compound's perimeter. A flash of red on the security monitor's breach detected in Sector 4, the disaster response hub. Techs scrambled to lock doors. Guards grabbed rifles. Panic rippled. Mara didn't hesitate. She grabbed her kit, a lightweight plate carrier, med pouch, and the M110 nestled in silent readiness. Every borrowed glance from the men as she passed carried doubt. "Let the SEALs handle it," someone grumbled. She smirked at herself. "If this story moves you, subscribe," she thought wryly before charging down the corridor. Crisis and reveal. Explosive laughter cut loose as the intruders smuggled weapons. Dealers garbed in disaster relief gear opened fire at the command centers. Glass walls. Training mannequins shattered. Tech consoles glowed before frying. Officers dove for cover. Mara dropped to one knee in the doorway, heart thundering. She exhaled softly, lined up her shot. In a whisper of muscle memory, she squeezed the trigger. First round struck the far guard's barrel. Second round punctured his chest. Third round dropped him mid-step without a sound. 5 more shots, and the rest of the smugglers crumpled like rag dolls. In the stunned silence that followed, a jagged hush fell over the corridor. The men scrambled forward, mouths agape. Mara rose, muzzle smoking, finger off the trigger. They stared at her. And finally, Private Lincoln whispered, "That was a sniper's shot." Resolution and reflection. Mara lowered the rifle and dusted off soot from her plate. Inside her chest, she felt the pulse of a confession unleashed. She'd enacted years of training in 5 seconds, and the world had watched. The compound's praise swelled in her ears, not for the silent armorer, but for the soldier she was born to be. She remembered her mother's words that morning. "Mara, strength is in the quiet, not the thunder." She let a single tear slip. Regret for the life she'd hidden. Relief for the life she'd reclaimed. Comment with, if you've ever stepped up when no one believed in you. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. Cold open hook. Flames licked the compound's main gate as the power grid flickered, security lights stuttering while Mara Price sprinted toward the command hub. Every heartbeat an echo of danger racing ahead. Backstory thread. Mara had arrived. Before dawn that morning, her slender frame cloaked in dull gray fatigues, hands steady as she calibrated sensor arrays in the eastern wing. The men she passed exchanged smirks, convinced she was simply the quiet armorer they'd come to ignore. But each adjustment she made was a testament to lessons learned under her mother's stern gaze, how to fine-tune life-saving ventilators in the field, and under her father's watchful eye how to read windage across dusty rooftops at 20 paces. She hummed the same lullaby her mother once sang into the night, her soft cadence a stark contrast to the mechanical ticks of relays and circuit boards. In those moments, Mara found solace, remembering the promise she made at her parents' graves, to keep their legacy alive, in silence if she had to. Inciting incident. An ear-splitting roar tore through the compound as a rusted transport vehicle crashed through the perimeter fence. Shouts erupted, intruders disguised as aid workers spilled out, armed with makeshift explosives and automatic weapons. Alarms blared. Red strobes bathed the corridors in panic. Mara didn't hesitate. A cold instinct seized her as she unclipped her suppressed pistol from her thigh holster. She pivoted into the chaos, using maintenance ducts and shadowed alcoves to close the gap without a sound. Each footstep was measured, each breath controlled, as she navigated the labyrinth of corridors toward the breach. "Drapa, if you've ever felt your calm turn into action," she whispered under her breath. Adrenaline sharpening her senses. Crisis and reveal. Cornered in the main lobby, two intruders fanned out, grenades in hand. The nearest man's grin widened, thinking her an easy target. He tossed a frag, its arc calculated to shatter glass and spin shrapnel into the crowd. Mara acted on reflex. She slipped behind the pillar of the information kiosk, 2 steps in, and fired one precise round at the grenade's metal casing. The shot spun it harmlessly down the hall. The intruders' faces blanched. She stepped into view, pistol raised. In rapid succession, one shot to the wrist, another to the holster, a final round knocking the second weapon from his grasp. All executed with the economy of motion her father had drilled into her. No wasted movement, no hesitation. Comment if you've ever diffused a storm with a single act. Resolution and reflection. Silence fell again, thick and heavy. Guards swarmed. The lobby, rushing past her in awe and confusion. Mara holstered her pistol, shoulders relaxing just enough to let the storm in her chest soothe. She glanced at the fragments of glass and concrete at her feet, recalling her mother's voice, "Compassion saves more than bullets." She knelt, pressing her thumb to a wounded guard's bleeding palm, applying pressure from her med pouch. The guard's eyes met hers, gratitude shining through pain. She offered a gentle nod. "Stay with me," she said softly, channeling the medic within. As she bound the wound, Mara felt the weight of expectation shift, no longer the silent cleaner of weapons, but the force that could change the course of any battle. "Let me see if you've ever been underestimated and still saved the day." Cliffhanger. Mara rose, wiping blood and oil from her gloves. As she prepared to report to command, her earpiece crackled, a distorted voice she hadn't heard since her parents' funeral. "Mara ... we know who you are." A chill raced down her spine. The compound's shadows seemed to close in. And somewhere beyond the walls, a threat far greater than marauding smugglers had an eye on the decorated soldier in their midst. "Cold open hook," the voice in Mara's earpiece repeated, cold and unmistakable. "Mara Price, Asset Echo 1. We're activating you." She froze, pulse thundering, as the compound's lights dimmed and encrypted files began purging themselves. From every terminal, backstory thread, she hadn't heard that codename in nearly a decade. Not since she was 17 and the Defense Experimental Directorate, a buried Black Ops wing her parents once served, had recruited her after their deaths. Her handlers told her she was the quiet solution for loud problems. A hybrid of sniper and medic, molded by blood and oath. But after the Morocco operation had gone wrong she'd been the one to order an evac that never came. She'd buried her identity and walked away. Joined the civilian contractor circuit. Found her way here, to the disaster response hub outside Belfast, where broken gear was easier to fix than broken trust. She had never expected Echo 1 to rise again. Inciting incident. Who is this? She hissed, ducking into the auxiliary server bay. Static filled her headset, then coordinates flashed on her forearm band. Branded in red. Coordinate strike on site. Code red. On the internal security monitors. Red pings flickered across the satellite grid. Unidentified drones incoming. 26. No nation flags. Altitude descending. She sprinted to command burst through the doors. The same officers who doubted her now looked to her with startled eyes. We've got minutes, she snapped. Evac civilians. Lock down the East Bay. I need eyes on satellite channels 2 through 7. Who put you in charge? A colonel barked. Mara shoved the band into his face. They did. Crisis and reveal. In the darkened op center, the tension was thick. Drones began swarming overhead. High-frequency hums reverberated as jammers activated across the grid. Security towers lit up, then were silenced with precise pulses from above. Mara moved between stations, barking orders, rerouting backup power, coordinating escape routes. She ripped off her plane contractor's patch and revealed the hidden insignia beneath an eagle wrapped in twin serpents, the seal of Echo. The room hushed. That's Black Tear, someone whispered. She looked at them, voice steady. These aren't smugglers, they're extraction units. I'm the target. The silence fractured into gasps. They want me alive. The rest of you, she scanned their stunned faces, are acceptable losses. Resolution and reflection. They followed her lead without another question. Under her command, the command center hardened its defenses. She guided civilians through the underground transport tunnels. Every step she took seemed to echo with her father's. Lessons on movement under fire, her mother's medevac protocols during siege scenarios. Inside, she felt her past rising like a wave, but not to drown her. It was hers now. When she reached the tunnel's mouth, she paused. Behind her, the compound braced for impact. Ahead, the world tilted toward war. If you've ever had your past catch up when you least expected it. Cliffhanger, a missile screamed overhead, then everything went white. Cold open hook, Mara clawed out of the rubble, ears ringing. Blood trickling down her temple as the wind carried the mechanical whine of approaching rotors. Her fingers found her weapon by instinct. The hunt had begun. Backstory thread. The compound was gone. Where reinforced walls had stood, fire now danced in twisted steel. Dozens injured. The survivors were scattered. The old Mara, quiet, compliant, tucked away behind her tools, was dust now, buried beneath smoldering concrete. She remembered crouching beneath her father's ghillie tarp as a child, watching him adjust windage dials with near meditative patience. Never shoot angry, he'd whispered once. Shoot certain. Those words steadied her hands as she pulled herself to standing, surveying the battlefield not as a victim, but as Echo-1. Inciting. Her crackled again. A new voice this time, colder British accent tinged with synthetic distortion. Echo 1, your extraction window has closed. Objective has shifted. Your termination is authorized. Mara gritted her teeth. Somewhere above, the swarm of sleek black drones repositioned, now in search mode. She sprinted across the courtyard, dodging flaming debris, her instincts rewiring into a faster, darker rhythm. She wasn't just surviving now. She was being hunted. She ducked into the collapsed sublevel and reached for a hidden panel inside a bent wall, an old Echo cache buried years ago. Inside, a modular rifle kit, thermal cloak, EMP grenades, and a dog tag etched with her parents' names. She clipped it around her neck. You raised a ghost. Crisis and reveal. On the surface, 3 mercenaries emerged from the belly of a tilt, their faces obscured by neural visors. Their footsteps were practiced, predatory, private military. Not local. Not friendly. Mara watched from the edge of the rubble. She activated the thermal cloak, slipping past 2 of them undetected. Then she waited, timed their patrol, tossed an EMP grenade into the air with perfect arc. The drone above sizzled, dropped. She dashed out of concealment and neutralized both operatives with 2 smooth takedowns, nerve pressure points, and precision strikes. One gurgled. The others slumped. The third spun, opening fire. Mara rolled, lifted her rifle, and returned a single round through his chest plate. Silence again. Her breath steamed in the smoke. Comment if you've ever had to fight with everything stacked against you. Resolution and reflection. From there comes, she intercepted a chilling data burst. Echo 1 has breached perimeter. Reinforcements rerouted to Phase 2. Cleanse and erase, not just her, the entire facility. Every survivor was now a witness and inconvenience. She sprinted for the triage center, finding 3 medics and a few wounded huddled behind overturned beds. Their eyes widened as she entered, smeared in ash, moving with lethal purpose. "We're not out yet," she said. "But if we move smart, we'll make it." She applied quick tourniquets, handed out breathing masks, and coordinated silent exit routes through the aqueduct tunnels. As they moved through the concrete tunnels, Mara felt something shift. Not just fear turning into courage, but trust. They followed her now. Droppa, if you've ever had to earn their belief the hard way. Cliffhanger. She stopped short at the final valve exit. It was welded shut from the outside. Then a red laser dot danced across her chest, and a familiar voice called from the darkness. "Took you long enough, Ghost." Cold open hook. The laser sight vanished as quickly as it appeared. From behind the vent shaft, a figure stepped forward, gray beard, burn-scarred hand, rifle lowered. "Hello, Mara," he said. "It's been a long time." Backstory thread, Colonel Nathan Rourke. Her father's former CO. Last she'd heard, he'd gone underground after Echo disbanded its western wing. Rumors swirled black site experiments, shadow raids in sovereign nations, but no one had seen him in 5 years. He looked thinner, worn, but his eyes hadn't dulled. "I warned them about using you," he muttered. "Too much like your father. Too much conscience." Mara's grip tightened on her rifle. "You part of this?" she demanded. Rourke shook his head. "I'm trying to undo it. They've gone too far." He tapped the sealed hatch. "Help me stop them." Inciting incident. Beyond the vent hatch, they emerged into an abandoned hydro station, dusty, empty except for flickering battery lights and cold metal benches. Rourke keyed in a sequence at a console. A panel slid open, revealing a wide operations map. On it, multiple red X's, former Echo bases, all marked for erasure. "Their cleaning house," he said grimly. "Anyone left from Project Sable operatives, medics, even handlers wiped. You're not the last, but you're the one they're most afraid of." Mara studied the list. Names she'd trained beside. Mentors. One still blinked green. Her mother's protege, Camden Locke, ex-medic, now running aid missions in Prague. They'll go after him next. She met Rourke's eyes. "Then we don't wait. We take the fight to them." Crisis and reveal. They left through the storm drains by dawn. Rourke had access to an old armored courier van, gutted and rigged for stealth. As they crossed into rural airspace, Mara prepped gear, reassembled her long-range rifle, sharpened the blade, programmed her comms with alternate identities. She was quiet, but her silence was strategy now, not shame. Rourke briefed her. Echo didn't die, it evolved. They call themselves the Halo Directive now. Private funding, high-tech, no oversight. They don't extract anymore, they eliminate. And what am I to them? She asked. Rourke looked at her. The only one who walked away. They landed outside Prague under heavy fog. Camden was already being watched. Two black SUVs, mirrored glass, idle engines. Mara scoped them from a bell tower, recalibrating wind drift. Then she fired. Resolution and reflection. Her first round cracked a side mirror. The second took out a rear tire. Sirens blared as locals scattered. She dropped the rifle, rappelled down, and was at Camden's clinic door in seconds. He opened it mid-reach for a scalpel, then stared. Price? No time. Pack up. They're here for you. He moved fast, years of training resurfacing. Within minutes they were back in the van, speeding toward the border. As the sun dipped behind the hills, Mara looked out at the sky. In that amber glow, she saw her parents not in shadowy memory, but in action. In choice, in rebellion. Drop a if you've ever had to save someone just in time. Cliffhanger. Camden adjusted his bandage bag. Where are we going? Mara tightened her grip on the wheel. We're going to burn Halo to the ground. But as they turned the corner, a drone dropped in front of the van, its lights flashing red dot. Then it spoke. Echo 1. Stand down or be neutralized. Cold open hook. The drone's voice cut through the fog, sharp and surgical. Echo 1. Terminate your extraction. This is your final warning. Mara slammed the brake, skidded hard, and reached for the EMP charge beneath her seat. Backstory. Thread. The Halo directive didn't bluff. She knew that from Istanbul. From Jakarta. From a compound in Tunisia where a fellow Echo agent had hesitated and paid the price. Halo specialized in surgical cleanups. They didn't chase. They erased. But Mara had something they did in single quotes d.history. She had once been there. Best. Her parents had helped found the science beneath their tech. The neural sync of her scope was a prototype from her mother's field med kits. Her own blood carried biometric locks for echo caches hidden across Europe, which meant, if she could survive long enough, she could expose them all, inciting incident. The drone hovered closer, a precision weapon primed beneath its fuselage. Mara's eyes locked onto the drone's exposed underbelly sensors. She tossed the EMP timed for half a second before the drone would trigger. Boom. It cracked midair. Light dimming, circuitry frying as it crashed sideways into a vineyard wall. Camden blinked. Are all your road trips like this? Only the warm-ups. They drove through back routes, cutting across Czech forests until they reached an old mining town Mara had marked during her ghost years. An abandoned alpine tunnel complex reinforced during the Cold War, forgotten by most. But not by her. They bunkered down there. Rourke caught up by encrypted signal. Good work, he said. But Halo's already flagged your biometric trail. You've got 48 hours max. Crisis and reveal. Mara and Camden worked side by side. She decrypted old echo frequencies, dug into Halo server echoes, and uncovered a chilling pattern. The next operation marked Phantom Vow targeted at children's refugee clinic in Athens. Why? Because one of the medics there was ex-Echo. They're not just burying us, Mara said, breath-catching. They're wiping anyone who might talk. Camden didn't flinch. Then we talk first. He rerouted power to a portable signal. Booster. Mara began transmitting encrypted pulses to Echo remnants. She signed each burst with one phrase. Ghost is awake. Resolution and reflection. Replies trickled in. A sniper call sign from Norway. A drone handler in Lagos. A medic in Caracas. All in hiding. All waiting for a signal. And now they had one. Mara sat in the tunnel's command chair, lit by dim console glow, her fingers tracing the old Echo badge she now wore openly on her shoulder. We're not ghosts anymore, she murmured. She loaded new coordinates. Athens is next. Drop a if you've ever had to take your past and turn it into a weapon. Cliffhanger. Camden handed her a USB drive. Before we leave, you need to see this. He plugged it into the main console. A video flickered to life. Grainy footage. A Halo interrogation room, and inside it, strapped to a chair, Colonel Rourke. Cold open hook. The video showed Rourke bloodied, defiant, lip split, his voice barely audible. Tell Ghost. The vault in Lisbon, they never decommissioned it. Then a guard struck him, and the feed cut to black. Backstory thread. Lisbon. Mara hadn't heard that city spoken aloud since her mother's funeral. There, beneath a false shipping depot, was a vault called SILO-9 Echo's earliest R&D node. It held blueprints, AI prototypes, and files that could implicate the highest tiers of Halo's founding. It had been mothballed, supposedly sealed forever after the Echo to Halo transition. But if Rourke said it was live, it meant one thing. Real evidence was buried there. And now Halo had him. He'd bought them time at the cost of his freedom. Inciting incident. We go to Lisbon, Mara said. Her voice was granite. Camden frowned. Rourke's alive. If we hit Silo 9, we make ourselves bait. Then we set the trap. They disguised the van, changed plates, traveled by night and fog. Camden rerouted Cumpings through offshore towers to mask their movement. Mara stared out the passenger window most of the way, silent, a storm in restraint. She recalled the last thing her father told her, whispered after the Tunisia fallout. If they ever come for you, don't run. Expose them. They fear the truth more than bullets. She intended to do both. Crisis and reveal. They arrived at the Lisbon Port District by sunrise. Pigeons fluttered across crumbling dock cranes. Behind a fake fish processing plant lay the entrance to SILO-9, a concrete stairwell camouflaged beneath rusted panels and crates. Camden decrypted the biometric panel. It blinked green. Inside. Tunnels choked with dust, flickering LED strips, rows of dead servers. But deeper down they found it level Omega. A cold storage vault. She keyed in her father's badge ID, something she hadn't tried in nearly 10 years. It worked. The vault hissed open, racks of sealed drives. Names etched on them. Project Nexus, Project Fracture, Project Virtue. And then Halo Directive Beta Genesis, Resolution and Reflection. Camden opened a tablet, began downloading files. Mara paced the room, stopping at a cracked mirror embedded in the vault door. For a long moment, she stared at her reflection. The woman in the mirror wasn't invisible anymore. Not bullied. Not forgotten. Not underestimated. She was the weapon they never wanted to remember. Drop a if you've ever had to walk into your past to protect your future. Suddenly, Camden froze. Motion alert. Outside the vault door, shadows flickered. Infrared. Sensors lit up red. Contact. Mara whispered. Cliffhanger. Gunfire erupted outside the corridor. Camden ducked, shielding the drives. Mara dove for the console, yanked the EMP override, slammed the vault shut. Outside, boots pounded steel. Voices barked in Russian accented English. She looked at Camden. Now we find out how loud a ghost can be. Cold open hook. Smoke hissed through the ventilation grates as Mara jammed her last magazine into the rifle. From beyond the sealed vault door, they heard the rhythmic thump of breach charges being affixed one by one. Backstory thread. Mara had been cornered before. In Morocco, she'd made a 10-story drop using only fiber rope and a grappling rig held together with med tape. In Georgia, she'd held off a platoon with 2 bullets and a shattered wrist. But this was different. Now, she wasn't buying time for an evac. She wasn't just surviving. She had the files. She had proof. And this time, she had Camden. That meant the mission wasn't just about ghosts anymore. It was about the living. Inciting incident: boom. The first breach charge tore the outer door loose. Halo strike teams surged in, faces blank behind carbon black visors, silencers already affixed to muzzles. Mara hit the thermal lock on the vault's inner door, slowing their advance. Camden triggered a timed upload to Echo safe nodes. Every second bought meant another file escaped into the world. They had 4 minutes. Maybe less. She handed Camden a flash drive necklace. If I don't make it out, stop, he said. We both walk. She gave a tight nod. Then the door behind them glowed red. Crisis and reveal. The final door buckled. Mara flipped the lights off. Vanished into shadow. When the Halo operatives breached, all they found was a blur, then a muzzle flash. Mara moved like liquid death. Dropped the lead point man with a silenced shot. Ducked behind a rack. Disarmed the next with a blade sweep. She'd memorized this floor's layout in seconds. Camden stayed by the uplink, firing controlled bursts. One bullet clipped him in the arm. He grunted, kept typing. Mara disabled another with a tactical chokehold. As the fifth attacker raised his rifle, a burst of static filled the room. Every screen lit up. The upload had gone live. Resolution and reflection. Halo's secrets now pulsed on secure dark web circuits, encrypted, mirrored, unstoppable. Drop. If you believe the truth always finds a way. Camden slumped, bloodied but smiling. You did it. Mara pulled him to his feet. We're not done. They moved through the alternate exit tunnel, an old service shaft that reeked of oil and rust. Footsteps chased them. Grenades bounced behind them. Mara tossed a flash charge. They reached the end of the shaft. Rusted ladder. Daylight glinted from above. But when they climbed out, cliffhanger. A chopper hovered over the rooftop. Inside, silhouetted by sunlight, sat a woman, late 50s, white hair braided tight, a scar over one eye. Mara's heart stopped. She whispered, "Mother?" Cold open hook. The woman in the helicopter didn't speak. She simply raised her hand and the side door slid open, revealing a seat with a blood-red harness, an invitation. Or a warning. Backstory thread. Dr. Eliza Price, Mara's mother, declared KIA in Tunisia. Funeral held. Flag folded. But the scar across her brow, the unmistakable poise. Mara would never forget that face. She had whispered lullabies with that voice. Now that same woman was inside. A stealth gunship bearing hello markings. Camden staggered, still clutching his bleeding arm. That's your mom? Mara stared at the chopper as it hovered in place. Then she nodded once. She was Echo's lead field medic, and the architect of their biometric encryption program. Why's she with them? That's what we're about to find out. Inciting incident. The chopper landed hard. 2 operatives stepped out, not weapons raised, but hands open, neutral, a message of truce. Eliza remained seated, eyes hidden behind tinted lenses. Camden whispered, "It's a trap." Mara holstered her sidearm. "I know." Then she walked forward. The ramp lifted behind her. Inside, silence. Tight leather seats, no restraints. A table with sealed files laid neatly at the center. Eliza finally spoke. "You've made quite a mess, Mara." Crisis and reveal. The chopper took flight again. Mara didn't sit. "You're supposed to be dead." Eliza removed her glasses. Her eyes were tired, rimmed in red. "They needed a martyr. I needed access. To Halo? To stop it." Mara's breath caught. "You're undercover?" "No," Eliza said. "I'm embedded." "There's a difference." She slid one file forward. Inside, a list of names. Halo board members, government liaisons, arms contractors. They think they control it, but it's evolving, becoming something else. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Eliza whispered, "even I can't stop what's coming." "But you might." Resolution and reflection. Camden monitored the chopper from below, tracking its altitude. Inside, Mara stared down at names that held global power people who'd ordered drone strikes, disappeared journalists, collapsed regimes, and beside each, a code, green, yellow, red. Triage. Double quotes. Droppa. If you've ever discovered someone you loved wasn't who they claimed to be. Eliza slid over a retinal key. There's a vault in Geneva. Inside is the true Nexus protocol. If Halo activates, They won't need agents anymore. Just signals. Mara pocketed it. Why tell me? Because you're what Echo was supposed to be. Not a shadow. A reckoning. Cliffhanger. As the chopper touched down again, Eliza's voice lowered to a whisper. Watch your six, Mara. Not. All ghosts are friendly. Then she stepped off first and was instantly gunned down by a sniper from across the rooftop. Mara dove, screaming, but it was already too late. Cold open hook. Eliza's body hit the tarmac with a wet thud. Mara dove beside her, blood soaking into her sleeves as she searched for breath. A pulse, anything. But her mother's eyes were already glass. Backstory thread. She had lost her mother. Once before at a funeral with folded flags and hollow words. But this time, there was no pretense, no safe story, just blood. Just death. But she'd also been given something more, a retinal key and a target. The Geneva vault, her mother's final. Words rang louder than the rifle's echo. Not all ghosts are friendly. Camden reached her seconds later. Sniper's gone. Took the shot from a drone blind. Signatures clean. Mara stood, silent. Wiped her mother's blood from her gloves. Then she whispered, "We burned them for this." Inciting incident. They moved fast. A contact of Camden's. In Zurich, ex-cyber forensics with ties to Euro Intel got them clearance to travel under a Red Cross detail. The retinal key was concealed inside a synthetic lens, and the data drive Eliza had slipped her was now fused into Mara's cum rig. Every second was borrowed. The Geneva vault wasn't on any map. It lived beneath the former UN tech corridor, buried in a deep shielded structure masked as a humanitarian archive. But its architecture was halo, angled corners, sensorless airlocks. No signage. They entered just before dawn. Crisis and reveal. Security inside was silent. Automated turrets retracted as Mara scanned Eliza's retina through the lens interface. The vault opened. Inside, rows of cylindrical drives suspended in nitrogen-cooled glass. In the center, a terminal labeled Nexus Protocol Standby MOD. Camden began extraction immediately, but the files weren't just code. They were behavioral models, neural imprinting schematics, predictive strike programs that didn't require humans, just algorithms seeded into global networks. If they launch this, Camden muttered, they won't need Halo agents. They'll just turn society itself into a weapon. Mara stared. At the interface, can you disable it? He shook his head, but I can hijack it. Resolution and reflection. While Camden rerouted the signal protocols, Mara scanned the archives for any trace of her mother's embedded logs. She found one, a final recording. Eliza's voice, ragged. Ghost. If you're hearing this, I failed. But you didn't. You can still rewrite the story. Echo was never meant to erase. It was meant to witness. Make them see. Mara stood before the Nexus terminal and uploaded the data dump of every file they'd gathered. Halo's crimes. Its architects. Its plans. Then she rewrote the launch protocol. Drop a "if you've ever taken something built for harm" and turned it into justice. Cliffhanger. As the progress bar reached 100%, Camden's face went pale. We've got company. Multiple inbound exfil choppers down. We're surrounded. Lights flickered. Doors sealed. Then Mara's cum pinned. Unknown. Signal. Acquisition mode. ENGAG. Be the Nexus interface. Blinked one word. ECHO1. Accepted. Cold open hook. The vault trembled. Sirens wailed in harmonics too high for human ears. And on the central interface, new lines of code stitched themselves across the screen. Nexus wasn't just accepting Mara. It was responding. Backstory thread. Project. Echo had always tinkered at the edge of control, augmenting human ability, enhancing reaction time, refining decision matrices. But Nexus? It was Echo's last gamble before the split. A neural catalyst. It didn't replace operatives, it bonded with them. Sensed with their instincts, amplified decisions at nanosecond speeds. It was meant to be used by one, and only one. Mara. Her biometric markers, her field experience, her trauma profile. Everything Echo had ever stored about her was now being used to align. Nexus. And she had just triggered the integration. Inciting incident. Mara, Camden said, watching the display. Poor data. You have to stop it. I can't. You don't understand what this is doing. I do, she said. Voice iron. This was never about stopping Halo's system. This is about replacing it. The final Nexus line glowed green. Ghost-driven mode. Ionitiha vision blurred. A million patterns flooded her periphery maps, trajectories, facial recogs, emotional threat indices. She blinked and suddenly knew where every enemy in the compound was. Crisis and reveal. Boots thundered outside. Mara turned. Seal us in. Camden slammed the lockdown. They had 7 minutes. In those 7 minutes, Mara rewired the Nexus core. She overrode every strike protocol, rerouted every assassination directive, opened access logs to every media outlet on Earth. Her heart raced, fingers blurring across the terminal. Then she looked up. Mara? Camden asked, but it wasn't Mara's voice that answered. It was layered. Echo. We air online. Resolution and reflection. Camden staggered back. Mara's eyes glowed faintly, now pupils tracking in microbursts. Every movement too perfect. But her voice returned to normal. It's still me, she said. Just more. He stared. You're not afraid? She looked down at her hands. Of being used? Always, but now I have the steering wheel. Then she uploaded the full data set to 3 global transparency networks. With one final keystroke, she exposed every Halo facility in the world. Drop A if you've ever faced the choice to become the thing you feared, to stop something worse. Cliffhanger. The ceiling above them exploded. A squad of black armored troopers descended on Cable's pulse rifles aimed. The lead soldier paused. Mara Price? She didn't flinch. Echo 1, she corrected. He lowered his rifle. Orders. Just changed. You're not the target. Camden stepped forward. Then who is? The soldier pointed at the terminal. That. Cold open hook. The soldiers circled the terminal, eyes wide. Not in fear but reverence. One murmured, "It's real." Another knelt. Echo wasn't the project. She is. Backstory thread. All her life, Mara Price had been underestimated. Quiet woman in the back. The ghost in the armory. The technician they laughed off, but it was by design. Her parents hadn't just trained her to survive. They built a living failsafe. Someone too ordinary to notice, too buried to track, too flexible to control. They had called her Project Whisper, and now Nexus had crowned her the only compatible host, which meant she wasn't just the leak. She was the kill switch, inciting incident. Mara, we have to go, Camden urged, voice low. Before they changed their minds, she looked at the soldiers. Why aren't you stopping me? The lead one calcined stag answered. Because we're done taking orders from shadows. We saw what you uploaded. We saw what Halo did. Another spoke. They took my brother in Lagos, said it was containment. He never came back. Mara stepped away from the terminal. Then we finished this. She pulled up the final interface. Nexus Global Signal DISRUPTYN. Crisis and reveal. She hit yes. Across the world, every Halo-linked signal went dark. Facilities fell silent. Drones dropped from the sky. Accounts locked. Terminals fried. Decision trees shattered. And in that silence, a message broadcast globally. We are not ghosts. We are the record. Cities watched. Armies stood down. In one burst of light, the truth overtook the lie. But deep within the Geneva vault, a backup program flickered. One final failsafe a rogue Halo had developed in secret. A mimic. It began to reconstruct. Mara saw the blinking warning. Halo_Echo_Omega detected. It's rebuilding, Camden said. She stared. Not without me. Resolution and reflection. Mara. Plugged into the core. Neural sync re-established. She didn't fight it this time. She invited it. Where the I mirrored control. She offered memory. Where it simulated threat. She showed mercy. And slowly, impossibly, it stopped. On the screen, one word blinked, integrate, and it erased itself. Mara collapsed to her knees. Camden. Catching her. You okay? She nodded, exhausted. It's over. He smiled. You just saved the world. She chuckled. Let's not tell anyone. Drop a if you've ever ended something. By becoming what you had to. Middle of Part 12. This story took us a long time. If you like it, subscribe. Now back to the story. Cliffhanger. Weeks later, Mara stood beneath a gray sky, overlooking the wreckage of the Lisbon site. Camden beside her. A child ran past them, wearing a tattered Echo badge on a hoodie. The world had changed. But not enough. Mara turned to Camden. They'll try again. Not Halo, but someone. He nodded. What do we do? She smiled. We train the next one, quietly. End of final part.